Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Techopia Live. It is a gorgeous Monday. We hope that you are out and about and enjoying this fantastic day as we head on into or showcase to you the variety of entrepreneurs within the city that's making things happen in the tech community, both locally and globally. Very exciting that's taking place this week right here in Ottawa, and how they are engaged with that and how you possibly can get engaged too. We want to remind you, of course, you're welcome to comment, friends or even interested parties, because once again we want to make sure that the information surrounding tech and what's happening within the city is getting out there. So make sure that you share it and talk to us, because that is why we do all of this. So let's get things started. First things first, right here behind me there's a reason why we have this on the screen, and I'm going to have the Director General of the Canadian Aviation and Space Museum, Chris Skidson, here. He's going to say a few words and tell us a little bit about this upcoming event taking place on Wednesday. We're very excited about it. It's something new and different for sure, and it's the first here that you're doing this. So maybe, Chris, you can give us a little bit of insight firstly surrounding this event, and maybe share with us why you have decided, as just, you know, the museums in general right here in Ottawa, to come together, because there is a few of you that's coming together, although it's hosted at the Canadian Space Aviation and Space Museum. Give us a little bit of insight on that and show us and give us some excitement with regards to this event.
All right. Well, thank you, and I'm glad to be here with our colleagues who we're working with on the gala. So the gala, actually, as you said, it's the inaugural gala at for the Science and Technology Museum Corporation, actually. So the Aviation and Space Museum is part of a corporation that also includes the Science and Tech Museum, other museums that are only interested in the past. Because we're part of the Science and Technology Museums Corporation, we're also looking at the present and the future. So we're part history museum, and we're part science and tech or science. And Shopify and a number of other sponsors as well. And they sponsored 7 for these awards, and ultimately 7 winners were selected. Wanted to develop. So as we were trying to think about what we were working with a series of other partners could be about, and the result for those students, but as a national celebration of youth innovation across to post-secondary education. Those awards colleges. We've got Algonquin, University of Ottawa, Carleton, and others. And then supporting them in building the evening itself. So that was how it came about. The idea was to create a theme, and we went with steampunk. Now, I don't know how many of your viewers know what steampunk is. Usually the tech world knows better than some of the other groups, but you know, for the younger generations, you kind of think of Will Smith's movie. What was the one that was recently put out? Wild West. That's exactly it. And for those of us a little bit older, you're thinking, you know, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, or Michael J. Fox with Back to the Future, etc. So it's a mixture of period for Canada, and sort of a futuristic vision of what technology can actually become. So that night we are going to have actors, we're going to have illusionists, we're going to have a whole series of different steampunk characters on site. And then within all of that, we're going to be featuring these new technologies across 5 different themes: artificial intelligence, robotics, virtual reality, autonomous vehicles, and wearable technology. Did I say that already? No? Okay, so there we go. Those are the five. Those are the five. And so we have all these different groups working together to create those zones. It's going to be a fantastic evening. Be able to fly drones, drive rovers, wearable technology, fashion show. I mean, the list goes on and on. I think I'll let the partners talk a little bit about some of the various elements that they're also contributing to that evening.
Wow, that sounds like a spectacular evening, actually. And I love the fact that you have really and various businesses. So I love that you've made that also engaging, which is great, because that's really what it's all about. Joining us, he's a partner. Some insight of how you are going to tie into this evening, and maybe why did you want to be a part of something like this?
Thank you. So Spiria we are a custom software development shop. We've been in business for more than 14 years now, and we do great things for different customers, and we always promote innovations through our work. So that's one of the reasons why we decided to join this opportunity, actually. But the main reason, I think, was the theme. The actual theme that Chris brought to the table was just great, and since augmented reality is, well, the new thing, right? It's going to be there everywhere in the near future. We want to be involved in this transformation of our clients and of the industry. So that's the reason why we also committed to build this booth with the different partners. So in our case, you can showcase briefly what we will be delivering this week. We actually took some 3D models provided by Algonquin College, and we created this little demo leveraging the HoloLens. So you can play with the planes, you can actually change the planes. You'll see that on the video in a few seconds. You can steamify, so you can make the plane more steampunk, so it adds some cranks on it and more details. Of course, on a screen it's not the same experience, but you can dive deep in the plane and play with it a little bit. So it's a bit this type of thing. So you can observe all the little details and play with the planes, change the model and all of that. We also contributed to what Brinks is going to talk about. So it's been a cool journey, and again, it's just like being part of the community. We like to demonstrate, of course, what we can deliver as an organization, but we also like the fact that students will be there, observing what's actually being delivered in the industry, not just in schools, because sometimes schools and industries are not really tied together, but now we are there, right? Algonquin College are delivering these things, companies are delivering them as well, so that's a good opportunity to join the forces of several schools and businesses, right? So, and museum, of course.
Awesome. Thank you, Francis. Yes, and it's so interesting because I love the fact you're giving people a hands-on experience at this evening as well, and we'll talk a little bit more of how the industry is changing and why this is such a phenomenal industry to be in and what you guys are doing in that realm. Let me just jump over here to Jeff, Director of Engineering. I think I said that right. Okay, of Brink. Now Brinks is just literally right here behind me in the Innovation Center. I know that you guys are growing day by day. As we were just joking, your team is quite big. I think you're literally taking over everything here, which is awesome, which means the company is growing and you're doing a lot as well. Maybe, Jeff, you can talk to a little bit, what are you planning to do on this evening? And also maybe just, as Francis mentioned, why you decided that this is a good opportunity for you to showcase a little bit what you're
Masterpiece VR is a virtual reality software that's the easiest way to create 3D models. And this is a project that has grown out of collaborations with Algonquin College, and a number of our staff are directly from the game development program. We also collaborate with the game development people on a regular basis. And it's sort of coming full circle now because our software is starting to be used or will be used as part of the curriculum at Algonquin College, if not the next term, then very shortly thereafter. So we're really looking forward to that. And one of the main things about this software is this is virtual reality. Okay, so it's leading edge technology, but it's an arts program. It's a way of sculpting, it's a way of painting, it's a way of collaborating with users and representing art in a space. And for the event in particular, we've created a gallery to show off some of the artwork of one of our artists. But it's a gallery with a difference, because it's a gallery you can go into now and create your own art and sculpt in place in that gallery. So this is an example of some work from our resident artist, now artistic director. You know, Mary is a concept artist, so it's very skilled in doing drawings, and but as many are put off by the technicalities of drawing using conventional 3D modeling software. So here you're seeing an example of her doing some typical sketching, but then it's a 3D sketch. It's not a 2D sketch, and then using that to do sculpting directly. So this is really a completely new way of creating artwork, especially concept artwork, and eventually art that flows into all of the artistic industries. You know, this is animation, this is game development, this is 3D printing. You can also imagine this being used for industrial design and any other place where you might want to create artistic-looking 3D models. So we're just at the beginning of this. We're very excited. And we'll be demoing this software also in collaboration. It's not shown here, but our software allows artists from around the world to work in the same space, and we'll be demoing that at the event on Wednesday, and hopefully creating some art in a virtual gallery. So it's really fun.
Thank you. Wow. Okay. I am glad that we got an opportunity to show both companies and how you guys are going to showcase that on the evening of. So once again, if you just joined us here on Techopia Live, what we're doing is we're talking about the upcoming event taking place on Wednesday night at the Canada Aviation and Space Museum, which is really, yes, as you said, built on the steampunk kind of theme, but you're bringing together all these various industries, virtual reality, augmented reality, and you're really getting all these entrepreneurs to showcase, but also kind of showcasing the world. Kind of here's where we're at. And isn't it exciting though, Chris, where we are in this city at the moment, to be in a space where we are surrounded by these companies, and I mean, these guys are a phone call away, which is pretty amazing. And the fact that we can actually have the partners and directors of engineering and CEOs right here in the chairs with us is amazing. So how does that maybe, I guess, supporting the mandate and or the goals for, you know, the Canadian Space and Aviation, the Canadian Science and Tech, how is this supporting your goals moving forward, especially as we as Canada and especially Ottawa has really gotten a big push towards innovation and supporting companies like these?
Well, it's a good question, and actually it's one that's become particularly pertinent to me. You know, I don't come from the technology sphere. I come from programs. I've worked for decades now in museums and National Library and Archives, etc. So it's a new world for me. And what's really struck me since I came here actually is sort of that untapped potential, if you will. And I guess it's untapped for a couple of different reasons. Part of it's on our side. I think we have to change the No, I'm looking to help you tell your stories, because those stories are going to impact youth. We're talking about STEM, interesting, you know, youth in science, technology, engineering, and math. That's what our museums are about. Our three museums focus on that. Adding the arts is particularly important, and this whole evening is about that. There's an interesting story actually about the artist that works for Spiria. I didn't know it. I actually owned some of his art before I started talking to Spiria, and he's become a big part of this show. So it's the overlap of all of those groups. And because I'm working with the aviation and space community, one of my main messages to them is, actually we do have incredible stories to tell, and we have so many different companies here in Ottawa that people don't even know about. Never mind just Ottawa, but across the country. And we have world leaders, and yet they're, most Canadians don't know about it. So if we can come together and start to tell those stories, there's a real opportunity. If we can also then impact the youth, it just continues on along that vein. So the whole night is going to be focused on this notion of STEM and then STEAM. Actually putting the A into STEM. And it's been exciting to see how all of these companies actually, as Brinks has as well, just sort of naturally, they already have artists on staff. Algonquin, some of the things that they're building for that night as well, you think about it as the technology, but the visual graphics that they're also developing are beyond compare. They've brought in their actors and their arts group to help us build the sets for the night too. So we've actually helped them even bridge the gap within their own organizations. So I think all of these groups, to some degree, I don't know what you two have found, but I think to some degree this is the first time all of these different groups have come together into one place, and we're starting to see some of the potential of working together. I can't tell you how much we appreciate, these companies are coming in. We haven't provided them with anything in particular. They've sort of rolled up their sleeves and they've said, we think that's worth doing. And, Spiri, I think I've been working with 4 of your senior people over the last 3 or 4 months now. And I know that Jeff has been working all the way through with Algonquin as well. So we very much appreciate it. And I think, more and more, like even this Invest Ottawa, to get these different groups to come together is so important. So I hope I answered your question. I know I went a little bit around it, but I want to tap into the community that's here for both of our benefit, quite frankly. So.
No, I absolutely. I think what's wonderful, as you just said, is really showcasing the potential to youth, and the potential, especially this night, is not so much to showcase to the youth the companies that are out there. This is really, as you mentioned, to partners and supporters of tech and communities like this, investors, CEOs, founders that are in the tech community, are in the VR community, are in the AR community, are in robotics, are in these various realms, to say, hey, listen, we want to see what's out there, we want to show that we're supporting this, and we want to communicate to the educational institutions what's happening within our community, and how can we see how this ties into what we want to do as a project, as a corporation, or as an organization. So that's what I love about this evening. And maybe you can share with us a little bit, Francis, as well. How do you see, your company's approach in general in trying to educate not just, users to use it and companies to use it, but how to educate youth about, here's an opportunity, here's a potential job opportunity for you in the future, here's an industry maybe that was never considered 10 years ago. Here, this could be the future, this could be one of a few futures that now is a realization that never was before. What's your company's approach maybe in that aspect?
Well, one of the things we try to do is to create or participate in this type of event where we can promote technologies that are not necessarily accessible in the market, or not easily accessible. So a very good example of something we've done last October that is very close to what we've delivered, or what we're going to be delivering to the museum, is an event called the Techopia Fest that was held in our space, where we had about 10 different booths showcasing different VR applications and platforms. So those platforms are not accessible they are being more and more accessible now, but becoming more and more accessible, but they were not necessarily. So we expose them, we invite tons of people. We had about 250 people coming to this little event in our place in October. So it's our social contribution to expose to the market, to the community, to everyone what's possible, what's feasible with 3D today, with VR, with augmented reality, with tons of different technologies actually. So that's our angle. We are trying to showcase stuff on new platforms, basically, summarizing it.
Jeff, maybe you can give me a little bit of insight on this as well for Brinks itself. I mean, I love what you're doing, collaborating with Algonquin, and how this software is now going to be part of their curriculum, which is pretty awesome to think. That makes, I'm sure, anybody that's in the arts or even thinking about sculpting in that aspect of things, I think, oh, this might be an opportunity for me too. This is a whole new, Mom, I was going to do this, maybe I'm going to do this now. Your goal as a company as well, maybe is it for you to try and just generate more platforms for educational institutions to integrate, which I'm sure is the same for Speria as well, but do you find there's more that educational institutions can do to embrace this? Do you feel your goal is to work on more varieties to integrate this with other educational institutions, or where do you see kind of the next step after, phenomenal success like this already?
Yeah, well, that's a very good question. The part of the challenge of let's step back a little bit and say, okay, what challenge are we trying to work with here? The problem we're trying to address with Masterpiece VR is we're trying to give artists who are not necessarily technical in the sense of using the conventional 3D software to really get out there and start creating physical things, whether that physical thing ends up in an animation, a game, of Masterpiece VR, but a lot of that, where you start with that process is in places like Algonquin, where you're learning game design, where you're learning character creation, you're learning animation, where you're learning all kinds, and other institutions like OCAD and Emily Carr, where you're learning more traditional kinds of artistic curriculum. But we can feed into that. And we can help kind of world, because 3D creation with the advent of augmented reality and virtual reality, these tools, content creation is still a bottleneck. It's still really, really hard to do well. So that's how we see this. So start out with the kids in the universities. We're working directly with these institutions, and as VR becomes more accessible, right now it's still, it's very high-end still. You need a lot of high-end equipment to do it. Eventually that'll come down. Augmented reality will feed into that as well. So as things go along in the next year or 2 or 3, this will get much, much easier, and we'll be there with a much more full-featured workflow in this entire space. So we really see it as a way to work with artists, work with students, for creating indie games or just creating art, and to do that collaboratively as well.
Absolutely. No, I love it. Thank you so much. So once again, Chris, let's just kind of get back to you a little bit and just talk about the event again coming up. As we already know, it's coming up on May 17th. That is Wednesday. Now, I know people are watching this and going, okay, how can I get involved? Is there still tickets left? The answer is yes, there are still some tickets left, but they are flying out the door. As you can see clearly, this is going to be a phenomenal evening where you are going to not just get to engage with it, but you're going to get to have some in-depth discussions. I love the fact that you have, you've brought actors already involved as well to really work with the theme as well, and artists, and you're getting really forward-thinking companies like this to showcase. So maybe you can just speak to one aspect as well. Once again, pulling together you hear the word museum, and as you just said earlier, we want to change how people look at museums. And it's not just, once again, a place where you go to and get information and leave, but it's also to showcase what's coming. And it's you're consistently evolving as well, along with the times, and especially with Ottawa itself. Do you find, maybe for yourself and for the organization, that is a key thing for you to keep in mind, is to continuously evolve with the environment, and this obviously as a night of just showing how you are evolving, supporting, and also kind of seeing the future. I mean, what do you see the future looks like the next 2 to 5 years for the organization or the Science and Tech Corporation?
It's exactly. We want to not just keep up, but within our corporation, obviously, like these two companies as well, we want to be carving new ground. And we had a very dynamic CEO. He recently left, but he set a documentary companies. We're working with the Smithsonian Channel. We're working with all of these different groups so that we can find ways to get the message out well a variety of fronts. But you know what? We have this course to connect with people beyond just the agriculture. Everything that we do is impacted by agriculture, particularly in our country, right up to what we eat. But I think actually, if you as part of this project is you have to constantly be working with the other groups. So you can't be just thinking up projects completely on your own and then going. Some of the things that our partners have built for this night alone blow my mind, and they're the sorts of things that I've gone out to with all of these different groups coming together. We've been able to generate reasons actually we have this group around the table is that we are looking towards the possibility of creating a living museum space at Canada Aviation Space. It's just in its infancy stage. Innovation Center, different than this, not an incubator, but more about STEM and having youth and the public interact with living science and technology, working together, etc. So, and anybody who comes that night will see a little bit of a sneak peek of what it is that we're actually hoping to build going forward. So I think that's the key. I think it's maintaining those connections, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to do that after this gala and keep developing programs as a community.
Thank you so much. Yes, I mean, it's wonderful to see that there is this collaboration coming together, and that's what I love about our city now more than ever. The innovation at Bayview Yards is just one example of that. What you're doing here on Wednesday night is another example of that. These two companies as well working together with you and sharing their expertise and insight, because once again, it's difficult to get an idea of what's out there in the market, how people are responding to the market, unless you talk to companies that's in the market, that deals with that market all the time. And that is what's wonderful to see from your perspective, and also even the educational institutions that'll be there on the night of as well. So for those of you that's watching this, once again, we're here today talking about the upcoming event on Wednesday night at the Canada Aviation and Space Museum. That is really a science and tech evening combined with engagement. I mean, there's really not one word. If you had to capture it in one word, what would you say?
Immersive. It's an immersive experience. Not subversive, immersive. So, but come on down for sure.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Submersive, it certainly is going to be. So for those of you, once again, this is an evening for those of you that support the industries, that want to get more involved, that want to have some FaceTime with some of these companies as well, talk to them a little bit, find out more that's happening, and maybe how you can influence this area and also collaborate a little bit more. It's going to be an entertaining evening, submersive evening, and also a very informative evening. So make sure tickets you need to go get. We'll see if we can give you a little bit of information here. Once again, taking place on the 17th. That is Wednesday. Starts at 5:30, and there's so much stuff on the site. Oh, goodness me, there's so much happening. 5:30 starting for you. It's semi-formal formal for you to go, and of course you can get your tickets online at
Canada Science and Innovation Gala.ca.
There you go.
You can also come through any one of our museum websites and you'll find the link there too.
Okay, perfect. So do that. Go on. There's a little bit of time left for you to still get involved. We hope to see you there. I want to say thank you so much, Chris, for taking the time here, Director General of the Canada Aviation and thank you very much. Engineer, director, executive director, engineer. He makes it all happen, okay? Thank you so much for being here today. For those of you that's joined us on Techopia Live, thank you so much. Make sure that you join us every Monday as we showcase of what's happening here in this city and what's happening in tech. And for those of you that haven't done so already, make sure you go to the website on any of the museum websites or the scienceinnovationgala.ca, and you can go get tickets for this amazing evening coming your way. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a fantastic day.